All right, let's get right into one of the greatest adventures ever written. In Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth, our heroes, Professor Lidenbrock, his nephew Axel, and their guide Hans, have finally made it. They're inside the volcano that's supposed to be their gateway to the Earth's core. But their very first challenge? Oh, it's an absolute nightmare, a straight drop into nothingness. So after all that prep, all that travel, they find themselves standing on the edge of this gigantic, dark chimney inside the volcano. It's just a vertical shaft that disappears into total blackness. No amount of planning in the world could have prepared them for a moment like this. And our narrator, Axel, he just nails it with these words. See, up to this point, it's all been about theories, maps, and travel. But as he's staring down into that bottomless pit, it hits him. The real life or death part of their adventure, well, it's just getting started. So let's really dig into the sheer scale of what they're up against here and the absolute terror it causes, especially for our very reluctant narrator, Axel. First off, this shaft they're facing is 100 feet wide. 100 feet! I mean, think about that for a second. That's wide enough to drop a pretty big building into. This isn't just some little crack in the rock. It is a massive, gaping hole in the world. And it's 300 feet all the way around. Can you even imagine trying to wrap your head around that scale, especially when you're perched on some tiny ledge looking down into pure darkness? It's just immense. What's so powerful here is Axel's description of vertigo. He feels that dizzying pull of the void, that weird, terrifying urge to just let go. It's this primal fear, and it nearly gets the best of him before their guide, Hans, has to literally pull him back from the edge. Okay, so you're faced with this impossible drop. What do? Well, this is where the professor, the brains of the operation, comes up with a solution. And honestly, his ingenuity is the only reason the rest of this journey can even happen. And that really is the million-dollar question, right? The walls are almost perfectly sheer. There's nothing to grab onto, no path. So how on earth do three guys and all their gear get down safely into who knows what? The professor's idea is just brilliant because it's so simple. They've got this 400-foot rope, so they'll go down in 200-foot chunks. They loop the middle of the rope around a solid rock, drop both ends, and climb down holding both strands. Once they're 200 feet down, they just pull one end, the whole rope comes free, and they can do it all over again. Genius! With the how figured out, they split up the gear. Every man straps a specific load to his back. Hans, being the strongest, gets the heavy tools. The professor, of course, takes his precious, delicate scientific instruments. And all the other stuff that won't break, well, they just chuck it straight down into the darkness. Okay, the plan is set. Now the real action kicks off. This is all about the tense, physically exhausting, and just mentally brutal descent into the Earth's crust. And the order they go in, it tells you everything you need to know about this crew. You've got Hans, the calm, experienced guide, leading the way. Then the determined professor, right behind him. And who's bringing up the rear? Our poor, terrified narrator, Axel. Basically a passenger on this horrifying ride. And this line just perfectly captures Axel's headspace. He doesn't feel like he's climbing, he feels like he's just dropping. And to him, that thick rope feels like a tiny, fragile thread, the only thing keeping three people from falling into a bottomless pit. You can just feel the terror. But then, in complete contrast to Axel's panic, you hear the steady voice of Hans. At one point, a slippery rock gives way under the professor. And what does Hans do? He just calmly says, "Giftakt," which means attention. No screaming, no panic, just a simple, firm command. He is the rock of this whole expedition. Now, here's where things get really interesting. This journey isn't just about physical danger. As they get deeper and deeper, Professor Lidenbrock starts to realize they aren't just going down, they're also going back in time. The professor, he's a scientist first and foremost, so he is in absolute heaven. He realizes they're not just passing through layers of rock, they're passing through geological ages. Each new layer is like turning a page in the planet's history book, and they're reading it backwards as they descend. So get this, while Axel is completely freaking out, the professor is more excited than ever. Every single layer of rock they pass confirms his scientific theories about how the Earth was formed. For him, this isn't some terrifying descent into hell. It's a journey into the heart of scientific truth.
And it really creates these two totally opposite mindsets, right? On one hand, you have the professor furiously taking notes, making observations, totally absorbed. And on the other, you have Axel, who could not care less about the science. He's just quiet, focused on not dying, and the professor just assumes his silence means he agrees with everything.
So, after hours and hours of this punishing climb down, their vertical journey finally comes to an end. And what they discover at the bottom, it changes absolutely everything.
Axel, who's been keeping careful track, does the math. After 14 separate descents, plus rest time, they have dropped a staggering 2,800 feet. We're talking more than half a mile, straight down into the crust of the planet.
And then, all of a sudden, a voice comes from below. It's Hans. Halt! The others are confused, but he just says it again. We are there. They've done it. They've reached the bottom of the vertical chimney.
But this is where they make a discovery that just blows 19th century science out of the water. See, according to the theories back then, the temperatures should be rising steadily as they go down. At this depth, it should be a deadly 178 degrees Fahrenheit. But when the professor checks his thermometer, it reads a perfectly comfortable 59 degrees. The theory is just wrong.
So, they survived the impossible drop. They've just proven that the Earth might not be a fiery furnace after all. But now, a whole new passage opens up in front of them, this one leading horizontally into the dark. Their vertical descent might be over, but the real journey to the center of the Earth, well, it looks like it has only